Good evening and welcome to Doc and Soc. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of this great state. You know, Mississippi is my hometown. I'm from Farm Haven, Mississippi. That's somewhere east of Canton, Mississippi. 15 miles east of Canton, there's a little community called Farm Haven that produced some of the strongest black men and women of any other place in this country, because most of the blacks out there were landowners and they had sawmills and they had other enterprises, and so the little community was self-contained. We really didn't see any other people a whole lot during the week or during the month, because we just went to town on Saturday to get the bare essentials, and most of the time an adult went to town. And if you needed a pair of shoes, they would draw a picture on a piece of paper and take the picture to town and get you a pair of shoes and bring them on back to you. So we're going to talk about Mississippi, the great state, and we're going to talk about our experiences. Some of those are going to make you laugh, and some of those are going to make you cry. But before we get into our program, we have our executive producer on the phone, Dr. J, I call her, Miss Carthan, and she is going to just bring us a few remarks about our documentary that was filmed today. Dr. J, are you on the line?
I am. Hello, everyone.
Oh.
I just wanted to call in and thank you all for a great show today, breaking the silence on Palestine. You know, more people need to get involved and, you know, be involved in this important conversation. And you all talked about, you know, why aren't more people talking about it? Because they're not educated. And so if you all do more programs like that, I think it would do the community good. So job well done. And it will air on March 17th on We Believe Digital. So make sure you all tune in and watch it only on We Believe Digital.
The work that you do, you and Chelsea are doing an outstanding job in our production department and also in our marketing department. So hats off to you. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.
I appreciate you.
All right. Now, if you're watching us on Facebook, we want you to share this program with your friends and family and send us stars. You know, we need your support there. You know, we're posting short reels on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and our viewers are going up. We are climbing every day. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, go on and subscribe to the program. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. You know, we are almost completely finished with all of the criteria for the monetization program inside of YouTube. And we need to get that done, because right now we're surviving off of the donations and contributions that are made directly to us. And a lot of you are donating from our website, WeBelieveDigital.com. Now, on WeBelieveDigital.com, you know that we are a different kind of platform. As I always say, we're not a page, we are a platform. On Roku TV, we sit there right between Showtime and Netflix. And one day, we'll be as large as CNN. And one evening I said, we're going to be called CNN. We're going to be called the Colored News Network. And we're going to get as large as they got, because we have an anchor person like Dr. Henderson and myself that's comparable to the talent of the great late Bernard Shaw. And so we think we can get this thing done. We think there are plenty of role models out here for us to follow and ask questions of. Our giant of a media personality in Roland Martin is out there. doing an outstanding job, and we see how you put that together. Now some people come along and they are able to grow rapidly because they were stars in other areas, like Shannon Sharp with Club Shay Shay with an interview with Cat Williams, and he may hit 50 million views on that one program. And he will turn over the advertising gates and the other things that are required. We know that can happen. We don't have that star quality, but what we do have is the kind of content that you will not find anywhere else in media. And so we're proud of the work that we're doing. We're proud of the recognition that we're getting from doing that work. As our executive producer just said, Dr. Henderson and I were on a panel tonight talking about this great tragedy that's going on in the world between Israel and Palestine. And we're going to talk about that a little bit as we go along. But as always, it's good to have my co-host in the studio with me, Dr. Eldridge Henderson. He's a dangerous man. He's one of the most sought-after speakers in this entire country. And if you need someone to speak to you about current events or history, Black history, American history, or world history, he is the guy for you. He's dangerous in that he's book smart and he's also street smart, having been born on a Mississippi plantation. And I always say someone must have placed him in a little boat and put him in the river so that he could be saved. And he escaped the hanging that was clearly earmarked for him as a young African American that didn't want to follow the rules in that part of the country. We often remember the brutal murder of Emmett Till, which came out of that same neck of the woods up in the Mississippi Delta. So, for a black male to grow up to become a man and then become a productive citizen is an accomplishment in itself. It's much different than if you were born on the campus of Harvard. That's a whole different outlook for you. That's not what happened with Dr. Henderson, but he survived, and he is here tonight. How have you been, sir?
Well, I've been fine, sir. I'm still listening and learning.
Listening and learning.
That's correct.
Are you teaching at all?
I'm teaching often, usually 2 or 3 times a week. I'm doing workshops and seminars on a variety of issues in business, for instance, building small, medium-sized businesses and doing the paperwork that correspond to that, organizing agreements, all kinds of constitutions and goals and objectives for businesses. And we also do wills and long-term health care initiative, trusts, life estates, things of that nature, something just to help the people move from where they are to where they need to be.
Now, Doc, we are coming out of Black History Month, and on the last day of the month of February, we had Mr. Dennis Damer on our program. And I know that Doris is going to call in just a minute. And I know that she wants to have a conversation about that show last night. And so there were some things talked about there that we got to revisit. What was it like for you as a boy growing up on the plantation, and what were some of your daily routines?
Well, my daily routine was to get up early, starting, I can remember, about 5 years of age. I would get up early at the break of day. I would go out and feed the hogs, milk the cows, and get wood to put on the front porch and the back porch for my mother. When I would get up, she would already be up cooking breakfast before the daybreak. She would be up. Dad would get up about 30 minutes later. Still, there was no light out there. And we would do those things, milk the cows, feed the hogs, get the wood, eat breakfast, and then walk to school 5 miles on country roads and trails. We did that for 8 years, 5 miles each way. And I guarantee you, in the 8-year period, we didn't get a ride to school probably 3 or 4 times during that whole period because Dad had to work. And he and his boys would get in their old regular cars and trucks and go to work in Jackson, Clinton, Yazoo City, anywhere they could find a job to make that minimum wage at the time about 75 cents an hour. And at that period, he was feeding 6 children and had other obligations to help other family members that didn't want to work.
Now, Doc, you actually walked to school 5 miles through dirt roads and trails?
Every day for 8 years. See, we didn't have buses. They had buses, but they were not for black children. And our parents and the community people couldn't take us in their trucks and wagons and cars because they were working either on a farm or somewhere else, making that living to feed everybody.
What was the schoolhouse like that you attended?
Well, we had a wonderful schoolhouse. It was a schoolhouse for 1st through 8th grade. They had 4 rooms. They had 4 teachers and a principal. No cafeteria, no bathroom. They did have something called the cloak room. That's where you put your clothing and your food. You would put your food up on a shelf in a box or a container because you didn't want the rats and roaches to get in it. And when you got ready to eat, you just go there and grab that biscuit sandwich with that wonderful cold bacon in it and get you some water out of the bucket, as we call it, that you would get out of the well outside of the campus there. Drink that water, eat that sandwich, and get ready to do that. We call it reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Reading, writing, and arithmetic.
That's right. Did that for 8 years.
So after 8 years, where did the students go then?
Well, most of them, until I probably in the early 50s, they didn't go anywhere because you couldn't do anything with 8th grade education. You couldn't go to college. You couldn't go to high school. We didn't have one in the county. No high school in the county until sometimes later. And most of the students in the rural area that lived on a plantation couldn't afford to go to Jackson School. They had a couple of black high schools there. But you had to have some relatives up there that you could live with. And you had to go up on Sunday night, and your parents would pick you up on Friday night. That's for the lucky blacks. The poor blacks that lived on a plantation couldn't afford to let those kids go. So we were able to finish high school, and at that point, you just got a job on a plantation, or you left and moved to Chicago somewhere.
Now, Doc, 8th grade was about as high as your parents were able to go in school.
No. They didn't have that much opportunity. My parents got very limited education. Mom got about 4th or 5th grade, and Dad got about 3rd grade, because they didn't have no real tight rules on education. When my dad and mom attended school, they had about 3 or 4 months during the school year, and that was when the bosses let them go. You didn't go every day. It depends on whether it rained or not. Even during my time, I almost got a new religion because I would pray every Sunday night hoping that it would be raining on Monday so I could go to school and not have to go to work on the plantation. And it didn't happen too often.
Your father got a 3rd grade education, and your mother got a 4th grade education?
That's right. That was their initial education. But Mom eventually finished college after she got a job with Head Start, because they always told them, say, now if you get a little, they would say something like this: if you get a little more education, we'll give you another job. So she started off working free as a volunteer. Then she got a job as a janitor in the place. Then her next job with promotion, she got to be a cook. And someone came up with the idea and said, we need some more teachers, but the teacher will have to have a high school diploma or a GED. So she got her a GED. Then that was an assistant teacher. Later on, they said, well, we need a teacher with a full-time degree. So she got enrolled at Jackson State University and got a little certificate to show that she was in college, and they made her a teacher, and she eventually got a teacher certification. Later on, in her latter years, they said if you finish college, you can be a Job Corps center director. And in her 40s, she finished college, started off from that little fifth grade education, and she retired after about 17 years as a center director of a Head Start program in a little wonderful town called Bolton, Mississippi.
Wow, wow. Now, Doc, this is Women's History Month. Was your mother head of the household, or was she, how was the reunion between your mom and dad? Who ran things?
Well, Mom ran things. Dad's job was to work. Now, he had a system that most husbands and wives don't use today. He had a lot of different jobs, but his main job was working as a construction person, digging holes, doing construction. When they would build houses and subdivision, they dug holes with picks and axes and moved the dirt with a wheelbarrow. That was his job the first probably 5 or 10 years doing his what I call construction career. And they built plantations in Jackson, Vicksburg, Yazoo City, not plantations, but neighborhoods. You might want to call them subdivision for Caucasian people. And he got paid that meager wages. He would leave early in the morning on a truck or a makeshift bus, he and other blacks, and they would do that every day, come back together. Then he'd get on his other job or go into the field and work until it was dark. And he did that from when I could remember, from 5 or 6 up until I was about 17 years of age.
Wow, wow. Doris, have you joined us?
Yes.
Well, it's good to have you. I certainly want you to share with our viewers a little bit about yourself. And we're talking about, this is Women's History Month, and we're talking about how it was, how your parents managed to feed the family, and what kind of example did they set for you and things of that nature. So tell us a little bit about yourself and about your parents.
Well, as I said, I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, elementary, high school, and college. My mother and father divorced when I was 4 years old. And my father was a military man. He retired from the military. And then that didn't come from a very large family. But then I had my grandmother and my grandfather and my great-grandmother. My great-granddad died when I was very early. And so my mother ran a business. She worked, it was on Lynch Street. It was RC. She had a cafe. And my mother worked there until she finally bought her own cafe down on Dalton Street. We still have the property down there now. And so my mother was a businesswoman. My grandparents were sharecroppers up in Humphreys County, out Holly Bluff, Mississippi, not too far from Yazoo City. And they were sharecroppers until they bought their own land. And so they became farmers. So I come from a family of landowners and business people. And this had such a significant impact on my life. Growing up, being very independent, owning land, owning business. I don't remember my mother working for any but one person, and that was R.C., who had the cafe down on Lynch Street until she bought her cafe. And then my grandparents, as I said, they were sharecroppers, and then they finally got their own land, and they raised their own cotton, and they had a garden. So it was just a good life. It was a very good life, very healthy life, very positive. My experiences were very positive with my mother, my grandparents, and my great grandparents. And as I said, my dad was a military man, so I did see him from time to time when he would come home. But he was away most of the time when I was growing up. So I had a very positive, very good upbringing. I was a happy child. I don't know anything about a lot of the things these young people experience today. And back during that time, most of the people I grew up with in the community, we came from a happy home, a happy community. You know, we talk about the village raising us. Well, the village truly did raise me and my siblings and my friends. So it was Jackson was a very, very happy place for me. I don't remember too many negative things. You know, that's why it's so bothersome for me today to come home and see Jackson in the condition that it's in, because it was a very viable city, a very lively city. Black businesses. Lynch Street always, I never went, I hadn't gone to Vegas at that time, but I would hear people talk about Las Vegas. And Lynch Street reminded me of Las Vegas based on conversations I overheard adults talking about, you know, the lights and the businesses. It was booming, a booming time. So it was a good life.
Well, Doris, I'm glad to hear that. And then we had our guest on last night, Mr. Dennis Damer, Dr. Henderson, had a more difficult experience than we had.
Very much so.
And how did his communications affect you after the show last night?
Well, I thought about it several hours after the show and thought about it some today. And I'm very familiar with what he went through. All black folks had to go through part of that. Now, most of us didn't grow up with people shooting in our homes, burning the house down, and any business activity that we might have located in or around the home. But we all grew up in a racist environment where the European Americans had to let black folks know that you are not anything of any importance. Your job is to be a chattel slave and do what you're told to do and work for us, and we may give you a little something or we may not. And I expect you to do that. Disregard school and education. That's nothing significant. You only go to school if it rains or if there's no work to be done. That is a fact. And, of course, they didn't have anything to do or say about going to church now. That was the parents' job. They would make us go to church too often. I got tired of going to church. It didn't help me then, and it doesn't help me now.
So, just for perspective, Mr. Dennis Damer's father, Vernon Damer, was murdered on January the 10th, 1966, the same year that James Meredith was shot down. About 3 years after Medgar Evers was gunned down here in Mississippi, about 3 years after the civil rights workers were found buried in Philadelphia, Mississippi. And so his experience in losing his father, and one of the things that stuck out to me, what he said more, he said they lost their breadwinner. They lost the father in their house. They lost the man that was setting the example for the community and himself. And sometimes we underestimate the importance of having fathers in the house. And Doris, this is Women History Month. What role does the father play in the life of a young girl?
Oh, it's extremely important. Extremely important. I thought about Mr. Damer last night, and I've been thinking about him throughout today. And the thing that came to mind was the fact that he was 12 years old when his dad was murdered, but his dad left such a lasting impression on him. His dad, you know, here's this man running all through the house, shooting at these animals who were trying to destroy him and his family. And what I got from that, the most important thing to his father was saving his family. And black men did resist these people. They didn't just lay down and play roll over. Black men resisted the Klan and resisted white people who were being very oppressive to them and their community and their family. And so that was just had a very significant effect on me last night to know this strong black man. And as a result of his father, the 12 years that he was around his father, he laid a foundation for his son.
And and as a result of that, his son is trying to carry on some of the things that his dad taught him, the example that his dad set for him, and that is a man takes care of his family, his mother. Yeah, I think you asked the question: how did did his wife deal with what her husband was going through? She loved him. They took the breadwinner, they took the king of the family, they left a woman with 4 or 5 children. I mean, so that man is so significant because that man gives the girl an example of what a man is supposed to be like, what a man is supposed to do. A woman cannot teach a girl what a man is supposed to do or what a man is like, and a man cannot teach a girl what a mother or what a woman, the role that a woman plays. God put us here for a specific reason. We have specific roles to play in life. And what I don't like now, what this racist society has created and has done to us, it's got black women saying, I don't need a man. I mean, this is not something the creators came up with. This is man doing under this system of racism and white supremacy. And as a result of that, this is why we're where we are today. When we talk about 70% of the households are ran by women. Well, look at the result. Look at the result, and they're negative, and they've had a significant impact on our children, on our boys, on our girls. Children need a father. Boys need a father. Girls need a father. Children need a family, a stable family. A stable family stabilizes communities and neighborhoods. When you don't have that, you're going to have the chaos that we have today. Now, we knew about racism in Jackson, Mississippi, but that little segregated community protected me. It protected us. I didn't really have any interaction with white people until I left Jackson, Mississippi. So it was wholesome to me because it protected us. We knew about all the racism. We experienced it. But, we had our own shops in our communities, and we shopped in our communities. We did everything we needed to do in our community. So the community was thriving. Mr. Newman's Bakery, that was right there on Dalton Street. Krispy Kreme did not have anything in comparison to Mr. Newman's Bakery. Those are the kinds of things that I remember. And when integration came, it destroyed it. It destroyed all of that. Look at Jackson today.
We're going to get inside of that dynamics in just a minute. But now, if the black man and the black woman are the role models for the children, Doc, and the children of today don't have a father, 80% of the prison population is made up of black males. Where and how are they supposed to become young men and progressive young ladies? Where are they supposed to get that from in today's society?
Well, about 72 to 75% is not going to get it anywhere. And that's why we have so much what I call degradation in the black community currently and in the future. A lot of black people throughout America believe that black people are doing better today than they were 60 or 70 or 80 years ago, during the period Doris talked about. They were doing well then. I remember those days. But now, since I was in the rural area on a plantation, I didn't have a lot of good opportunity going to Jackson. I would go to Jackson maybe 2 or 3 times a year. We would go to a little town called Bolton, Mississippi, every Saturday. And it had about a 1 mile square radius. And you go to Bolton, Mississippi on Saturday and walk those little streets until you would get home about 11 p.m. at night. They closed at midnight, and the white sheriff will come through the area, the so-called black area, and tell you ends you got to get out of town. You know you got to get out of here. Get out. And you start getting out around 11:15. By midnight you were gone. Because if you didn't, you would probably end up in jail or beat up or something and forced to get on the road.
I had that experience in Canton. I was told to get out of town on more than one occasion. Let's deal with it in terms of the current political environment. Now, we've established that the man is tremendously important in the family, and yet he's been removed out of the family by policy. So we understand what the problem is. The man is missing out of the community and out of the family. Problem. We see that. Now, there is no role model. There's nothing for children to emulate. And I've heard Doris say that she feels sorry for young girls today, based upon they have nothing, no one to turn to. They don't have anything they can see. When the music is calling you bitches and hoes, that they just don't have anything that can get their hands around. And so, Doris, I know that that's tremendously important to you, that these girls have a role model. So how do we change this dynamic that's taken over our community and our young girls especially?
Well, I think black people go to church more than any people on the face of this earth. The church can play a significant role. We have got to go back to talking about the importance of a family, the importance of young men and women marrying. I'm not talking about shacking up with somebody, but marrying. We've got to value, we don't value the system of marriage anymore. Anything goes with us. So we've got to start talking about the importance of marriage, the importance of a family, because it stabilizes the community. As a guidance counselor in Chicago, I dealt with a lot of young single women, mothers, and what they would do oftentimes, they would use the children to get at the father. They wouldn't want the children to see the father. If something happened at school, and the first thing they would say to me, well, don't call her father, or don't call his father. And my response to that woman was that, oh, yes, I am. Because that's his father. That's her father. And they have a right to know what's going on. So now you have an issue with them. You need to deal with that with their father. But I am going to include the father in this conversation about your little girl or your boy having a problem here at school. But they would recognize it, and they wouldn't want us to call the father. But I didn't fall for that nonsense because I don't believe in it, because these children need to know their father. Boys need to know their father. Girls need to know their father. So we've got to get back to the promoting the institution of marriage.
Well,
there's a complete breakdown when it comes to the institution of marriage.
How do we change this music narrative that's got such a stranglehold on our kids, Doc? You ride next to the music that they're playing. Yes, it's worse than gangster rap. It's the kind of music, it's the most vulgar music that you can ever imagine. How do we rid our community of those kind of influences?
Well, you can't do it as a collective, but individually you can. That's the problem. Most parents that I know don't have any rules and regulations at home. They have no curfews. Most don't have study time. They have kids with social media outlets at the fingertips. Many of them sleep with the iPhones and all kinds of things like that. And they are learning to be what I call rapper and gang bang induced by looking and listening to all that mess on social media. And since the guys are so popular, the gang bangers and the rappers, you find that had a great impact on the church performance. So now the church leaders, especially young ones, they are replicating their songs, just changing a word or two, and they sound just like the rappers. They are dancing in church and twerking in church and doing all kinds of things in order to get the young people to participate in the church. Now, a lot of the traditional and conservative churches don't want that. And that's why they have very few people in their membership. And those that are agreeing on that are going away from the Bible, and they are very community oriented as far as pleasing and satisfying the membership.
So let's hold up for that moment. I wanted to let it go, but I don't seem to be able to. There is nobody twerking in the churches today, I hope.
Oh, yes. Yeah, they have a lot of groups called the Praise Team, and I have seen it personally where they're dancing and twerking in the church, and they're doing all kinds of things in the name of the Lord. Now, you know, that's what they always did. The guys that played in the bands during my time were the guitarists and the drummers in the church. And many of them would leave the clubs on Saturday night and clean up a little bit and be there for church around 10:30 or 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock. You know, they started late, not like they do now, and would go until 3 or 4 o'clock. And those the same people. And that's why you find so much similarity between the church music and the blues. Gospel, blues, all the same thing. A lot of the songs, only 1 or 2 words are changed, and that's the only difference.
We're up against a commercial break. We're going to go to a commercial, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the importance of HBCUs in a black child's life and the advantages of going to an HBCU versus a major college or university like UCLA or Mississippi State or Ole Miss. There is a difference, and we want to highlight what that difference is, and then we want to talk about the fact that there's a bill that has been introduced to close down 3 universities in the state of Mississippi. We're going to go to this commercial. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in 1 cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Welcome back. In our program, we've been talking about the impact of role models. We've been talking about the family structure, the lack of it. We've been talking about some of the issues and problems in our community that causes the devastation that we're experiencing today. And now we're shifting gears because there's a bill in the state of Mississippi to close down 3 universities. Now, there are some that say that Mississippi has too many universities. We have 8 major universities in the state of Mississippi. Now, I agree that the total population of the student enrollment in all of the 8 universities would be fewer students than they would have at UCLA. I get that. But there is something sinister about the possibility of a HBCU being closed in Mississippi and anywhere else in the world. Doc, what is the difference? What does a black child get by going to a HBCU versus going to a university like Ole Miss or Mississippi State?
Well, first of all, there are a lot of advantages. One is that they have a need to feel that they are going to be accepted immediately. When you are at a black university, started off as a freshman, or for those that don't know what that is, the first year student, you are usually in a totally new environment. You don't know the people. You feel uncomfortable. Usually you start at a disadvantage. You know you don't have enough money to attend. You know you have borrowed money from relatives. You know if you are qualified and 90% are, you got a student loan or work study, and you just don't feel good about that experience. And if you go to a white university, that'll be double exposure. And at the same time, you know you're not going to be respected, and you have a hard time adjusting the first semester or the first year. And most of the black students that start off at these universities that's not on scholarships don't finish the first year. They usually drop out that second semester and go to one of the 3 black colleges here in Mississippi. Unless now they are honor students on a scholarship.
Now, Doris, there's a move for charter schools that are expanding throughout the state of Mississippi and across the U.S. And now there's a move for closing HBCUs. What kind of impact, and should we be allowed to close these universities?
Absolutely not. Well, first of all, they've ruined public education. They've ruined the public elementary schools. They've ruined the high school for black students, and now they're trying to take away the colleges. This is all by design. And we cannot sit back and allow these people, when I say these people, I'm talking about the white power structure, to continue to try to destroy us. This is almost this is the last ditch, so to speak. Elementary schools are worse in black communities. High schools, they've taken all. They don't have the resources. They don't have the support in these schools, in these black schools that we need to have. And now they're going after our colleges. So that is the nail in the coffin. If our children can't be educated, they don't have trades. They don't have anything. So what's going to happen? We're going to have a society of lawless, helpless, and young individuals who won't have any skills, nothing to do. This is all by design. So we cannot sit by and allow these people to do this. This is a continuation of the racist white supremacy system to destroy black people. They are out to destroy us. They're bringing all these illegal immigrants. All of this is having an impact on black people, jobs, education, and everything else. They have programs set up for Spanish-speaking students that black students can't even tap into. They have bills specifically for immigrants that black people cannot access and tap into, and it was done with the help of the Congressional Black Caucus members and local mayors of these various cities and towns that are predominantly black. This is about destroying us. And I don't know what it's going to take for us to accept and look at what's going on and fight back. We're losing everything.
Now, Doc, why is it that we have put all of our black leaders in place in Jackson, Mississippi? Our mayor's black, our city council is predominantly black. 100% of our board of supervisors is black. Our school board is black. Our airport authority is black. And yet, we don't see any progress.
See, you don't seem to understand, Mr. Socrates. I've been telling you and others for many years, that doesn't mean anything to be in a position. If you don't have any power to make decisions and control and determine how the money is spent, you have no power. Just having the title as a mayor or a member in the Senate or on the council, you're not going to get anywhere if you control the money. And then at the same time, these European leaders have another method they've been using ever since they had black folks in leadership position. They know how to sabotage the black leaders in these positions of responsibility. They know their weaknesses, and they always find a way to expose them and not kick them out of office, but make them, as I say, inept to the fact that they can't be responsible and make decisions. They're always going to find something on them and bring it up when they start making a decision or trying to make a decision to pass legislation that's going to help their people. And you don't find a lot of those folks getting out of political office. Usually, they'll just get caught doing something, they apologize or not say nothing at all. And even the membership, the black people, don't encourage them to leave office. So when you have a lot of, I'd like to use the word contaminated preachers, politicians, and community leaders in positions of responsibility, and no one says anything about it publicly, that is a good way to keep you from functioning as a real citizen and keep you non-productive. And that is exactly what they've been doing all over America since Reconstruction. Get a good black man or woman and find something out on him and expose him, and the white folks be doing 10 times more, and you don't hear nothing about it.
Dallas, today in our panel, one of the pastors there said that the churches are being treated unfairly, that they represent less than 13% of the population, and that everybody is pulling on them from every direction to solve every problem. If you got a water crisis, blame the pastors. If you got a crime problem, blame the pastors. They were saying basically that the church and the pastors can't handle all of the demands that are being put on them. Are we, in fact, treating our pastors unfairly? Doris, can you hear me?
Oh, I hear you now. Yes.
Did you hear my question?
Are we treating the pastors unfairly?
Yes.
No, I don't think we're treating the pastors unfairly. It comes with the territory. And let me just make a comment regarding the politicians and black people being in positions. Our problem, I think our problem is that we're so status conscious. We're very status conscious. Just to have a black person in a position, that's a status thing to us. But we did not demand anything else from these people. And if you're going to be in these positions, you cannot afford to allow yourself to get caught up in all this illegal activities that go on with these politicians, a woman here and a woman there, and all those kinds of things. I mean, it may be unfair to say, but you almost got to be perfect if you're in one of those positions, especially if you want to demand of this system the resources that black people should be able to have just like any other citizen of this country, because we do pay taxes, and that's where the resources come from. The money is a result of people paying taxes. So we have a right to have the resources to run our schools and run our communities the way everyone else does. But if you're going to be all over the place doing all of these illegal, immoral things to give these people a reason to go after you when you make a demand of them, then, I mean, that's what's going to happen. And we've got to stop being so status conscious. I mean, that's nonsense, which is contributing to our condition.
Well, Doc, I agree with the pastors that we are requiring a lot of them. I don't know if we do not expect more from our preachers and our churches than they can give.
That's not what we should hear. I didn't get a chance to talk on that subject today, as you know. A lot of people don't know that in America we have 7 major black religious denominations. 7. There are 32.5 million black so-called Christians in America, and these black churches got churches in Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Caribbean. 32.5 million members, and I guarantee you they have the time and the ability to change things for black people if they choose. Each church should teach and train its own membership. Poll the membership and find out where the problems are in education. Find out who is a business person. Find out who wants to become a business person. Find out who has the means to do various specific things like rehabbing houses and in construction, the doctors and the medical teams, and the real estate people. Get those folks in the individual churches, have them to pool their resources and work the others in the surrounding communities, and they can control the children, their economic development, and the children then will have the ability to be stable, each one teach one, and the churches will flourish, and they won't have a lot of gangbangers and other people that's dropping out of school by the millions every year. If each church with its 200 members, 35 or 40, would put those programs in operation, and it doesn't cost much money to do it because they can always find someone to teach the kids that will do it free, and they can be competitive students when they get into public school or the parochial school. You are saying in many instances that we might not need charter schools in America. We most certainly need them, and if we had them, black churches and community organizations ought to get them. They need to start their own schools. And if they would do that, that law would change the next year. If a lot of black churches and community organizations would get involved in charter school education, the legislature will pass that law one year and unpass it the next.
Doris, the pastors, the politicians are asked to do a lot. The mayor cannot stop crime in Jackson, even though we've elected him as mayor. But he cannot stop crime in Jackson. Our pastors, who we did not elect, are asked to do a lot, and they're saying that we are being and treating them unfairly. Again, it's critically important that we get this right. We can't
They are saying that.
and people for more than they can give, and we can't let others underperform and don't ask anything of them.
Well, they're saying that, and they're upset because they have not done what they should have been doing, which is what Doc just outlined. They have not done what they were supposed to do as ministers of that community and of that church. In that church, you have all different kinds of people, different skills, different education levels. So, they don't take advantage of what they have in that house and build on it, just like Doc just said. So that's why they are upset, because they have failed the community. They have failed the parishioners in that church. These ministers go to these banks every Monday and deposit billions and billions of dollars, millions and millions, and probably up into billions of dollars in these white banks, instead of setting up a savings and loan or setting up their own bank so that their people can borrow money from the bank to build homes and to do whatever they want to do in the community. We have the money. We have the resources. But the ministers and the politicians do not have a vision for their people, so now they're upset because people are criticizing them. Well, that's your role. That's your role. That's why people put you in that position, so they can scream and holler and do whatever they want to. They have failed the people. They have failed the community. They have failed black children. They have failed us. And the mayor will not be able to solve crime in Jackson alone. The people in the city of Jackson are going to have to come together and make a decision and say to themselves, we will no longer tolerate this. It's going to have to be a collective effort on the part of the citizens of Jackson, Mississippi. The white folks are not going to do it because they want us to kill each other. They want us to continue to do what we're doing to each other, to destroy each other. It's a part of the plan. They have contributed to it greatly. But it's going to have to be up to us to fix it, and it can be fixed. When the people of Jackson, Mississippi, and black people decide to get up and do something for themselves to stop all this chaos that's going on in our community.
Hold up a minute. Go ahead, Doc.
Well, just to give you an example, when I came along, when I was forced to attend church, my preacher for the first 17 years of my life always told us that his job was to get us to go to heaven when we die. And naturally, I didn't know anything about heaven. But he told us it was such a good place. And I wondered, hell, if heaven is so good, why are you not teaching us how to live in heaven on earth? I'd rather live in heaven on earth that I know is a good life than die and go to a fictitious heaven that I know nothing about and end up in hell. So that is something that the preachers need to start talking and teaching, how to have the members living in heaven on earth. Good health, good jobs, good skills, good relationships, on and on and on.
Well, we've come to the end of our time. as always, we need more time. There are so many issues that we need to deal with. But we're going to continue these programs. We're going to continue to bring you the kinds of conversation and information that you won't find anywhere else at all. WeBelieveDigital.com. We Believe Digital podcasts on YouTube. We Believe podcasts on Facebook, on Instagram, and on our very own platform. You know, there's a lot of work that we have to do. Hopefully these conversations, this dialogue will start the conversation around kitchen tables, around the family gatherings, that we'll have these conversations at churches and at funerals and at football games, that we'll begin to have a dialogue that moves us forward and takes some of the things out of our community that we know is holding us back. And that may very well be. Some of that could be associated with religion. Some of that could be associated with ineffective politicians. It could be family members. It could be Michael Jackson said, it could be the man in the mirror. But we got to find out what it is and implement some change. Now, Doc, I'd like to have your closing remarks for this evening.
Well, one thing for certain, Mr. Socrates, if folks want to know how to put together what I call a salvation plan on earth, all they need to do is do what a lot of people are doing. They are calling the Doc and Soc show to come to their communities, and just as we did today, and we talk to people and tell them simply that they need to control the areas where they're in the majority and get themselves protected and control 5 areas of activity: education and training, economic development, religion, politics, and of course, leadership. If you learn and control those areas from what I call birth to death, in areas where you're in responsibility, we can come and help you do it. And all you have to do is call us at 601-201-1957 or 1-800-492-5186. And we can start helping you change and stop hearing and believing this propaganda that you are doomed, and you really are, though, now, if you don't do something for yourself in the next 6 years. I guarantee you're doomed if you don't do something and start changing.
Doris, we'd like to get your closing remarks, and please speak to the young ladies out there in your closing remarks in terms of what's expected of them and how we need to view them as young ladies.
Well, I just hope that people who are listening to the program will start having conversations in their families, asking the question, what kind of life do we want to have? These problems are not going to go away, and it's going to be up to us to solve these problems, and we can solve these problems. And we have to do it for our young people, our young boys and our young girls. And I want Black women to start having conversations with their little girls about what they should and should not do, about morality and immorality. Let's go back and take back our dignity, take back our pride, take back our virtue. We've lost all of that, and it's hurting our little girls because they're being devalued. They've been devalued by this society, devalued by the rap music calling us bitches and whores. We have got to talk to our little girls to build up their self-esteem, to let them know that they are worthwhile. They are somebody. We are the mothers of civilization, Black women. So let's talk to our little girls about their importance and the role that they play in this society and in this world. I mean, those are the things that those are the conversations we're going to have to start having. Black women, stop talking about their children's father in a negative way in front of them. I never heard my grandmother, my grandfather, or my mother say anything negative about the men in our families. We have a role to play, Black women. Black men have a role. So let's stop having these negative conversations around our children. Let's stop bringing any and everything around our children. And that is why our children are out of control, because the parents are out of control. Let's start talking to our young girls and letting them know babies cannot raise babies. We have too many little girls at 13, 12, 13, 14 years old having babies. They are babies. And this is contributing greatly to us as a race of people. Babies cannot raise babies. So let's go back and do what my grandmother, my great-grandmother used to do. Talk to us about the role of a young girl, the role of a woman versus a girl. So we got to have these conversations. It's up to us. We're the only ones who can solve these problems and do just what Doc just said. We have the tools. We have everything we need to turn this around. But we're going to have to start having conversations about it and acknowledging the fact that this exists. And it's hurting us. We don't have a choice. We will either turn it around or we will be doomed.
Wow. You heard it here on We Believe. I want to thank Doc and Doris. You know, I'm taking to heart everything that I hear, and I'm trying to find how I can improve and make a difference in our community. Now, we want you to stay safe out there, and good evening.